Imagine you're about to run into battle. Swords, spears, arrows flying everywhere. Your heart is pounding, your hands are shaking. And someone hands you a bowl of porridge. That's it, that's your pre-battle meal. Enjoy. Throughout history, soldiers all over the world have had to fight, bleed, and risk their lives. And what they ate right before doing that tells us a lot about their culture, their resources, and honestly, how much their commanders cared about them. So today we're going on a world tour. Ancient armies, bizarre foods, and a surprisingly fascinating story of what warriors ate before they went to war. Let's start in ancient Rome, because Romans did everything with a very specific kind of confidence. The average Roman soldier's daily diet was built around something called posca. Now, posca sounds fancy, but it was basically vinegar mixed with water. That's it. Soldiers carried it everywhere. They drank it before battle, during battle, probably after battle too. Why vinegar water? Because it killed bacteria, gave a small energy kick, and it didn't go bad in the heat. Romans were practical people. They didn't need their soldiers to enjoy their drinks. They needed them to survive long enough to conquer another country. On top of that, Roman soldiers ate a lot of grain, mostly wheat, made into hard biscuits called bucellatum. These things were so hard, historians believe you needed to soak them in water or vinegar just to eat them without breaking a tooth. Before a major battle, if soldiers were lucky, they might get some olive oil, a bit of dried meat, maybe some legumes. Not exactly a pre-game steak dinner, but it kept an army of hundreds of thousands moving across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East for centuries. So clearly it was working. Now let's cross over to ancient Greece, specifically the Spartans, because you cannot talk about ancient warriors without talking about Spartans. Spartans are famous for being tough, famously tough, legendarily tough, and their food matched their personality perfectly. The Spartan pre-battle meal was simple: barley cake, a piece of boiled pork, and water. That's the whole menu. No dessert, no options. You eat it, you say thank you, and you go fight. But here's the interesting thing. Spartans had a communal dish called black broth, or melas zomos. It was a soup made from pork, blood, salt, and vinegar. By all historical accounts, it tasted absolutely terrible. A visitor from another city reportedly tried it and said, "Now I understand why Spartans are not afraid to die." Think about that. The food was so bad, death seemed like a reasonable alternative. The Spartans, of course, considered this a feature, not a bug. Comfort was the enemy of toughness. You don't need good food, you need a strong mind. And if you can choke down black broth every day, charging at armed soldiers probably doesn't feel so bad by comparison. Moving east now, let's talk about the Mongol warriors under Genghis Khan. The Mongols were perhaps the most efficient military force in human history. At their peak, they controlled the largest contiguous land empire ever, and their secret weapon wasn't just skill or strategy, it was logistics, specifically what they ate. Mongol soldiers traveled with dried meat, usually horse or sheep, that had been pressed flat and dried in the sun until it was almost like jerky. Lightweight, high in protein, doesn't spoil. They could ride for days without stopping to cook. But here's the wild part. When food was really scarce, Mongol soldiers would cut a small vein in their horse's neck, drink some blood, and then seal the wound and keep riding. The horse stayed alive. The soldier stayed fueled. They kept moving. They also carried a dried dairy product called arul, basically rock-hard dried cheese curds. Again, not exactly delicious, but packed with energy and easy to carry. The Mongol approach to food before battle was completely practical. Eat whatever gets you to the fight in the best condition. No ceremony, no ritual, just fuel. Now let's head to Japan and the samurai. The samurai had a very different philosophy. For them, eating before battle was almost a spiritual act. The traditional pre-battle meal for a samurai was uma, kelp, and chestnuts, and each one carried symbolic meaning. Uma, pickled plum, represented endurance and the ability to withstand hardship. Kelp, called konbu in Japanese, sounded similar to the word for joy. And chestnuts, kachiguri, sounded like the word for victory. So the samurai weren't just eating food, they were eating symbols. They were mentally preparing themselves through the act of the meal. This extended to sake as well. Before going into battle, samurai commanders would share a ceremonial cup of sake with their men, not to get drunk, Just a sip, a moment of unity, a shared acknowledgement that whatever happened next, they faced it together. Compare that to the Mongols drinking horse blood on horseback, and you start to see how differently cultures approach the same basic problem. How do you prepare a human being to walk into mortal danger? Let's jump to the Vikings now, because of course we have to talk about Vikings. Viking warriors, before a raid or battle, would eat a heavy meal, typically salted fish, dried meat, hard bread, and a dairy product similar to yogurt called skyr. High fat, high protein, designed to sustain a big person doing heavy physical work in cold weather. But the more interesting story is about a specific group of Viking warriors called berserkers. Berserkers were elite fighters who reportedly entered a trance-like state of rage in battle. They were said to feel no pain, fight with terrifying intensity, and be almost impossible to stop. Historical accounts describe them foaming at the mouth, howling, biting their shields. What did they eat or drink before battle to get into this state? Historians still debate this. Some think they consumed certain mushrooms with psychoactive properties. Others think it was a combination of alcohol and ritualistic chanting and drumming that brought on the frenzy. Whatever it was, the word berserk is still in our language today over 1,000 years later. That's a pretty lasting impression. Now let's talk about ancient China. Chinese armies in different dynasties had different approaches, but one common thread was the importance of rice or millet in earlier periods as the base of a soldier's diet. Before major battles, soldiers in the Han Dynasty would often be given extra rations, more grain, sometimes meat, and importantly, extra alcohol. Chinese rice wine, or ju, was given to soldiers before battle, partly for morale, partly to dull fear, and partly because it was considered to give the body heat and energy. There are records of generals personally distributing wine to their troops before battle as a gesture of care and solidarity. A general who fed his soldiers well was respected. One who starved them lost their loyalty fast. There was also a strong tradition of the general eating with the troops, not separately. A Chinese general eating the same simple meal as his lowest ranked soldiers sent a powerful message: we are in this together. And finally, let's go to the Aztec warriors of Mesoamerica. The Aztecs had one of the most intense pre-battle rituals of any culture in history. Warfare for them was sacred. Battles were fought not just for territory, but to capture enemies for religious sacrifice. Before going to war, Aztec warriors ate a simple diet of maize, corn, in the form of tortillas or tamales, practical, portable, energy-dense. But the ritual preparation before battle went way beyond food. Warriors would fast, stay awake through the night, and participate in ceremonies involving chanting, offerings, and prayers to their war god Huitzilopochtli. By the time battle came, they had been awake for hours, running on willpower, ritual, and maybe a bit of cacao chocolate, which was considered an energizing, even sacred drink. Yes, ancient Aztec warriors drank chocolate before going to war. History is full of surprises. So what's the big picture here? From vinegar water in Rome to black broth in Sparta, horse blood on the Mongolian steppe to ceremonial sake in Japan, dried fish in Scandinavia to sacred chocolate in Mexico, every culture solved the same problem in a completely different way. How do you feed a human body that's about to go through the most extreme physical and psychological stress imaginable? And what's fascinating is that the food tells you everything about the values of that culture. Romans valued practicality, Spartans valued toughness, samurai valued meaning and ritual, Mongols valued speed and efficiency, Vikings valued strength, the Aztecs valued the divine. The meal before battle wasn't just food, it was a statement of identity. Next time you sit down for a meal before something stressful, a big presentation, an exam, an important meeting, think about what you're eating and why. You're continuing a tradition as old as human conflict itself. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. Next time we're going even deeper into the bizarre and fascinating world of ancient warfare. What do you want to know about next? Drop it in the comments.